Hello everyone. Today we have the Streets of New Capenna commander decks. So I know these have been out for a little while, but I'm just now getting to mine. So let's see what we have. This is a sealed display case that has one of each of the 5 families in it. So to start us out, we have Bedecked Brokers. Then we have Cabaret Cacophony. Followed by Riveter's Rampage. Then we have Maestro's Massacre. And last but not least, we have Obscura Operation. And as I said, each of these corresponds with one of the 5 families in Streets of New Capenna. So, without further ado, let's get started. Now, each of these includes a collector booster sample pack. Those we will open separately in another video. Okay. So as with the new commanders, or the new commander decks, each of these will have kind of a slip inside. And we are going to rapid fire these. So we have our standard cardboard box, the slip. These actually have specialized, well, not specialized, but specific dividers for the given families, if I remember correctly. Let's see, Cabaret's. Yep, yeah, so you get a corresponding divider for the family that goes with it. So you've got the Brokers with Falco's emblem. You get the Cabaret crown thing. Fortunately, most of the families, I do not remember the different things, or the what's it called? The Demon Lord, whatever of the family. I can't remember what they're even called. Sovereign, the family sovereign. But with each of these, instead of the +1/+1 tokens, because this added shield tokens, there's shield tokens, and then they have double strike, trample, first strike, vigilance, death touch, on top flying, hexproof, and -1/-1. So these, although I normally use dice for my tokens, these are a little more useful than usual, in that you might actually want to keep these and use them, separately from your normal tokens, or in addition to your normal tokens, like dice in my case, because this is a little more unusual, and we don't necessarily have a good way to represent this without something similar to this. So those will actually go in my token collection. See, the Cabaretti one, though, actually comes with interesting Cabaretti tokens as their little family motif. Some would call it a seal or crest. Although I think motif is actually the correct word in this instance. I could be misusing that though. So we've got two sets of 6, black on teal, and then you've got 3 of the teal on black. It's kind of neat. Right. So that's Brokers and Cabaretti. And then we've got Riveteers was next. Yeah, so Riveteers and Maestros. Let's see what kind of tokens come for Riveteers. Okay. So many boxes. Let's see, Riveteers also come with their motif. Also do the inverse for the top tokens, which is interesting. Their divider. Nope, that didn't go the way I thought it was going to. I do like that these are recyclable. Kind of annoys me that I have so much stuff to recycle though. You've got the Riveteers box on the back. Now for Maestros. Let's see. Oh, just popped out. Maestros appear to also have the motif. So I'm wondering if Brokers are the only one that have the counters for the different abilities, which makes me wonder if that's part of the theme of that commander deck. I mean, that would make sense with Brokers, because they do have quite a few cards that do ability counters, but not 100% sure. And these, of course, all line up with the same color wedges from a Laura block. So you've got Maestros that line up with Grixis. You've got the Cabaretti that line up with Naya. You've got Brokers that line up with Bant. Riveters line up with Jund. And the Obscura, which line up with Esper. For those fellow Magic boomers out there. Alright. Yeah, it looks like Brokers is the only one that comes with the ability counters, which is okay, I guess. Um, you know, could be indicative of how the decks are built, but I'm not sure. All right. And if there's a weird cut there, I apologize. I had to pause recording. I had a bit of a coughing fit. So, because of the way it's been warmer and then cold, it's kind of really throwing my allergies for a loop. So I'm just coughing off and on. That and the cardboard dust doesn't really help. It is what it is. All right. So 5 decks. A lot to review. Let's see. We're going to start with Brokers, I think. Bant is my favorite color shard, so might as well start with Brokers, right? In each of these, you have the spacer that we're so used to seeing now in the Commander product. I think it's a little, whatever, but looks like we get a life counter this time that matches the deck that we have. Deck box. This is the bifold style, so it does fold down pretty quickly, which isn't the most sturdy, so not really great for long-term storage, but it will do in a pinch if you have to. So it would be nice if they had partnered with Ultra Pro or something to make slightly nicer deck box, but I can understand why cost-wise they wouldn't do that. Although Ultra Pro did come out with a fantastic line of play mats for these. Let's see. We do have the Bedecked Brokers deck synopsis here, and then Perry the Pulverizer, this little bio. Perry the Pulverizer? And then a collector booster sample pack. I believe that New Capenna was the first set that they started doing these in. So we didn't see them in our Crimson Val packs or decks, but we did see them in Brothers War and Dominaria United. So I think I do think New Capenna was the first one that they did it in. I'm hoping that they also did them in Neon Dynasty, but I don't think that they did. So at some point we will open the Neon Dynasty ones as well. Because I know there are some goodies in the Neon Dynasty Commander decks for Legacy. Specifically, I believe Kappa Cannoneer is in there. Now, for these, I have not looked at what is in these deck lists. Just because I haven't had the time. Let's save it, Pete. How have you not looked at what's in these? They've been out for months. Yeah, well, unfortunately, as I've gotten older, I've had less time that I can dedicate to Magic. More money, less time. All right. So, I want to, you know, I'm going to actually go through each of these. This is Obscura. Yeah, might as well go through each of these so that I only have to adjust the camera once. Get the Obscura life counter. And I have so many of these life counters that if I ever start a Patreon, I think I'll just give life counters away to anyone that wants them. All right. Kamaz Obscura Occultus, or Oculus rather, is the one for Obscura. And Obscura Operation is the uh, name of this deck, of the Obscura deck. So I'm assuming that it's probably going to have a lot that revolves around Connive or something similar. I did find it funny during the pre-release for New Capenna, which was the first pre-release that I came back to, and since the pandemic started, um, that a lot of people didn't recognize the word connive. I heard convene multiple times, and convey a bunch, which it's like, okay. I mean, the word is connive. It's not a super common word, but it's a little surprised that there were a lot of people that didn't recognize it. Now the Maestro's deck is the third one. The Maestro's life counter. Another New Capenna sample booster, which I'm excited for. Our sample boosters have been, well, for Brothers War they were fantastic because we got two Phyrexian Flesh Gorgers, which we were looking for. And our ones for Dominaria United were kind of hilarious because they weren't particularly good, but they were very funny. So we'll have to see how the Streets of New Capenna ones go. I'm hoping we'll pull some of the really shiny gilded foils. And Hello, the Painter, is our Maestro's commander. And Maestro Massacre is our deck name. So the Maestros are apparently old money vampires. Which is very cool. Then we've got the Riveteers, would be Jund on Alara, which are the working people's group. Of course, Riveteer being a reference to Rosie the Riveter. You could also call Riveteers, Riveters, if you wanted to. They're the working the working class heroes kind of thing. The working man's family, or the working woman's family, the working person's family. Reminds me the most of Old World, well, not Old World, but Old Chicago and old New York. This is the Hell's Kitchen of New Capenna. So we've got Riveter Rampage. They're the artisans that break and build the buildings and bust the kneecaps. You got Henzi Toolbox Tori or Tori. Okay. Ain't no one calling him Henzi except his mama. Yeah. That's a good introduction there. All right. All right, let's adjust our lighting a little bit so it's not completely wash out. Yeah. Oh, I don't know. Maybe I need to get like a softbox or something. Or make one. And the last one is our Cabaretti. I don't know what the story behind the Cabaretti are, but they kind of scream, the fashionistas of the of New Capenna to me. Like they all seem like runway models. And yeah, like the upper crust kind of persona types. Also seems to have like the highest concentration of furries, which is kind of weird. I mean, like, you do you, boo, but not really my thing. Not gonna yuck someone else's yum, though. Let's see, we've got Cabaretti Cacophony. Apparently they're, the fun-loving cult of druids who throw the hottest parties in town. They're the Glitterati. Glitterati, that's what I was looking for. And then Kit Kanto, Mayhem Diva. She's a diva. Oh, that's just fun. Kit Kanto, and of course you've got the life counter for Cabaretti. The funny thing is the Cabaretti are sound the most like one of the old Cosa Nostra families, which I believe is kind of what they're supposed to be based on, to a degree. Like it at least hints at it. So, who's to say? All right, now let's get things in a bit. And for those wondering, yes, I have to physically adjust my camera in order to do this. All right, there we go. Still a little washed out, but hopefully it won't be too bad. Let's start off with Perry the Pulverizer. Which passes around shield counters. Cross Defense Contractor. They're just putting that right out there. He is, in fact, a defense contractor. Which also passes around shield counters. And lets you goad things, which that's cool. Get a good old Broker's Charm and Exotic Pets, both of which are from Streets of New Capenna. Actually, it seems like several of these cards are. You got Broker's Hideout, good little way to tutor up basics. Generous Gift. Grateful Apparition. It's a Proliferator. Skyship Plunderer. Which is a token increaser. And Thrumming Bird, which is a classic proliferate, engine. Wingspan Mentor, just passes around flying counters, and lets you build up 1/1 counters. Devoted Druid, of course, useful in the modern combo that gives you infinite mana and can be used along with a number of other things. Evolution Sage, another fantastic proliferate enabler. Wall of Roots, nice little ramp. Wickerbaw Elder, way to convert your -1/-1 counters into removal. Then good old Bant Charm, because if you're going to have Broker's Charm, might as well have Bant Charm too, right? Let's see, then we have Primal Empathy, card from, I believe it was Ikoria. It's really useful for building up counters. Urban Evolution, a nice ramp piece, and card draw. Then we get to some of our staples with Arcane Signet, Commander Sphere, Everflowing Chalice, which handles which works fantastic with Proliferate because you can kick it once to start with and then just start rolling it up and making more and more mana. Angelic Sleuth, which is a investigation enabler along with counters. Let's see, Contracted Safeguard, which lets you put shield counters around. Wow. So this lets you just pass counters around to everything. That is awesome. Then Damning Verdict, of course, goes along with your counters to destroy everything else. Resourceful Defense. Battlefield, if it had counters on it, put those counters on target permanent you control. Wow, this lets you pass around your counters. Huh. Very cool. Support 6? Wow. That plus a blink effect would just be just nuts. Avon Courier. Let's choose a color. Oh, so lets you spread counters around also. That's Avon Courier. Field Broker. So you probably, yep, does some stuff with shield counters. Whoa. So that lets you steal creatures by putting shield counters on it. And then you can keep adding shield counters with your other effects. That is cool. Huh. So this would let you bounce a whole bunch of stuff for each kind of counter that you have. That could be huge. So you can have multiple kinds of counters. Bribe Taker, when it enters the battlefield, for each kind of counter on permanents you control, you may put your choice of +1/+1 counter or a counter of that kind on Bribe Taker. So he lets you build up a ton of counters on this creature, which then you can then pass around. Whenever you attack, put a shield counter on target attacking creature. That on its own is just fantastic. And then when it deals combat damage to a player, you can remove the shield counter to draw cards. That plus the thing that steals things, you could just keep putting shield counters on your guys. Dethrone. Okay, so it's got Dethrone. Can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player or dies, proliferate. Wow. So that's another proliferate enabler. Agent's Toolkit. This lets you generate a bunch of different counters, so that enables your counter stuff. Broker's Confluence. So you choose 3, you may choose the same, so you can proliferate a bunch, phase out stuff. And you can also use it as a counter spell for triggered abilities. Very cool. Denry Klin, Editor-in-Chief. Another... Let's see, whenever a non-token creature you control enters the battlefield, if it has counters on it, put the same number and kind of counters on that creature. Wow. So once you've passed around a bunch of counters, he just duplicates your counters on things. Gavel of the Righteous. Gets huge for each kind of counter, so that plays along with the counter synergy. Double strike. When it attacks, so this passes double strike around to all your other creatures. Declaration in Stone. Fantastic piece of removal to exile multiple things. Hoofprints of the Stag. This lets you pass around hoofprint counters. Well, put hoofprint counters on this, and then you can create tokens. Okay, so that gives you another kind of counter as well. Luminarch Aspirant, you know, just came out of, or just left standard, but passes around +1/+1 counters. Planner Outburst, you can use that with Awaken to wipe the board and make a creature. Another support spell. This lets you keep reusing your creatures with counters on them. Midnight Clock, another type of counter that you can keep rolling up. Tezzeret's Gambit, fantastic card draw and proliferate. Forgotten Ancient, huge counter generator, and lets you pass them around. It's huge. Incubation Druid works fantastically well with anything that passes around counters, and it makes a ton of mana to ramp you. Rishkar passes around counters, turns all your creatures with counters on them into mana dorks. Rishkar's expertise lets you refill your hand after a bunch of stuff. Skoos, of course, makes counters and um, is Graveyard Hate all on its own. Slippery Bog Bonder. This lets you pass around Hexproof and lets you move counters around. Wow, that is just fantastic. It has Flash. Steelbane Hydra has a bunch of counters that you can convert into destroying things. A Johnny Unyielding. Let's see. Put all non-land permanent cards reveal this way onto your hand and the rest of the bottom of your library. So this lets you dig for permanents. It's removal. So it's a Swords to Plowshares built in, and you can ultimate it to just make everything humongous. I wonder if there's any other planeswalkers in here to go along with this second part. Aven Mimeomancer, feather counter, so another type of counter, and give creatures flying and make them potentially bigger. Fathom Mage, huge draw engine. With everything else that you have, Janara, Azura of War, 2 mana, put a counter on it, another huge counter enabler, and just becomes a huge threat very quickly. Also potentially an alternate commander you could run. Let's see. You got Rolesque Apex Hybrid, which gives you double proliferate when it dies. Vorel of the Hullclade, double the number of each kind of counter on target artifact, creature, or land. Wow, that's amazing. How is it a human merfolk? That is very confusing. How can it be both a human and a merfolk at the same time? Like a merfolk isn't a job. That's a whole nother thing. It's kind of funny. Crystalline Giant. This of course was from Ikoria, and just super unpredictable, but just makes tons of different kinds of counters to work with your other counter stuff. Oblivion Stone, you can set fate counters, which are another kind of counter, so you have more counter synergies there, and you can use that with some of the other cards to pass fate counters onto all of your permanents and just wipe everyone else's stuff. Oracle's Vault, brick counters, so another distinct kind of counter. That's so cool. And then some good lands, Canopy Vista, uh, Exotic Orchard, Flooded Grove. Oh, this was a much needed reprint. I wonder if they reprinted the other filter lands, because they definitely all needed reprint. They had been very expensive. And then Fortified Village, Gavany Township. Wow, that is surprising. I know it had crept up in value. I don't know if it had another major reprint, but these were upwards of $30-40 at one point. So that's awesome to see that reprinted. Karn's Bastion, another proliferate enabler. Nesting Grounds, move a counter from target permanent you control onto another target permanent. Okay, so you can move your counters around. Nice. That's probably that's useful with Wickerbaugh Elder and the Druid that I can't remember the name of. The one that lets you generate a bunch of mana. Devoted Druid. Devoted Druid plus Wickerbaugh Elder and Nesting Grounds just lets you keep blowing up artifacts and enchantments. That's awesome. Port Town, Prairie Stream, Skycloud Expanse, Sungrass Prairie, Temple of Mystery. So a lot of good color fixing there. Felwar Stone, solid staple. Power Conduit, which lets you move. That lets you move some counters around. Soul Ring, of course, Commander staple. Swiftfoot Boots, also a Commander staple. Ash Barrens, nice. Commander staple that also is a Pauper staple for color fixing. Bant Panorama, which is, I mean, it's a budget fetch land. Command Tower. Lityara Mirror Lake, nice copy effect. Llanowar Reborn with Graft, that can help build up with the counters. Myriad Landscape, good fixer. Path of Ancestry, Seaside Citadel, Vivid Creek with Proliferate is basically a Vivid Grove, Vivid Meadow. Those three, along with a lot of Proliferate, are effectively always 5-color lands. Then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 forests, 2 different arts. So 4 forests, 1, 2, 3, 4 plains, 1, 2, 3, 3 islands, and then we've got a full art forest, a full art plains, and a full art island. Then Perry the Pulverizer. Elemental token. It's also a clue. Another elemental that's also a clue. Elemental that's also a clue. Elemental that's also a clue. So what, 4? of the same. Elemental, that's also 5 of the same. Fish, that's a clue. Fish, that's a clue. An elephant, that's a clue. Lots of clues. An elephant, that's a clue. And a copy, that's also a clue. So a bunch of clues with other stuff on the back. And then an extra pack of different kinds of counters. So that is very cool. Little disappointed there weren't the other 2 filter lands in here, but having Flooded Grove, I mean just having Flooded Grove, like that's awesome. Because I know those were up to 15, $20 somewhere around there. And I'm super excited that Gavany Township is in here. Like that's awesome. Because making those cards more available is huge. So that was it for brokers. And now that we've done that, let's see, we're 40 minutes in. I'm going to call it at this, and we'll do the other 4 in another video. So thank you for joining us on this adventure. This was fantastic. So I can only guess what's going to be in the other 4. I'm very excited. But as always, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And tell me what's your favorite card that's in the Broker's deck, and what do you think we'll find? Will we find filter lands in the other ones? Just, yeah. So until next time, thanks for joining us. Bye.